Meredith Haines, thanks for having me in your apartment here in Chicago. We're here to talk about your experiences in music and coming up in all sorts of different projects. I'm probably going to cover a lot of territory here.
Yeah.
How did you get interested in playing music initially? Like what sparked, I guess, being in it? I won't say just guitar specifically because I know you're kind of like a multi-instrumentalist in a really, really broad way.
So I didn't start playing music till I was 23. I really wanted, it's like kind of silly, but I saw Leanne Rimes on television when I was 7 years old. And I was like, oh, I want to be a musician. I want to be like that. That was like in the 90s. I always really wanted to play music. Everyone around me was a musician, but I kind of like never really saw myself as someone who could play music. But then when I was 23, I was like, fuck it. And I picked up the guitar. And now my whole life is structured around that.
Was there any particular like music that you wanted to kind of like learn how to play yourself, or did you sort of just start from more of a first principles and you were like, I'm just gonna kind of develop my own approach?
I got really into music through like emo, obviously. Like being like a teenager in the 2000s. When I was younger, I wanted to play emo music, but kind of, when I was in my 20s, I started on like blues and like heavy metal and like stuff like that. So I started kind of on like, I was just making sure my cat doesn't like knock something over.
Oh yeah, hopefully she doesn't whack the camera.
Hopefully she doesn't whack it.
I think we're good.
So I was like really into Black Sabbath for a really long time when I was in my 20s. Are you familiar with like Tony Iommi?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
I love Black Sabbath.
Yeah, okay.
I still love Black Sabbath.
They're amazing.
In my 30s now,
Yeah, they're amazing. I saw him play guitar. I'm left-handed, and I saw him play guitar when I took like my ex-boyfriend to see them at like the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, and I didn't realize he was left-handed. And that was very inspiring to me as a fellow lefty. But then I also like learned his story about how he got like his fingers sawed off in the factory.
Workplace accident. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of like, all right, well, if he can play guitar, so can I. If he has no excuse, so I have no excuse.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I got into it.
I think that's why drop tuning is so popular in heavy music, right?
Yeah.
Because of his fingers.
Yeah, like it hurt his hands or something to be in standard or something, so they dropped it. I don't know if that's true or not. It may very well not be true. They were like one of the first bands to like start that, and I don't play in standard, so
such an interesting practical beginning to like such a popular trend, right? They just
literally
because they had to, right?
They had to,
that's
yeah.
So you were inspired by him being lefty and him having that disability and still like being such a good guitar player. And you're like, anybody can do it. From there, were you like mostly just kind of like pursuing, developing, playing on your own? Did you like work with somebody specifically, or was it like kind of something that you just did like in your own time?
I was living at home for a year, so I had a lot of free time, because I was living with my mom. There was like nothing to do in New Jersey. So I feel like a lot of my skills came like pretty quickly. I took guitar lessons for like 6 months, and I've taken guitar lessons kind of like on and off. I was kind of taking them throughout my 20s as kind of a way to like boost my skills. But I feel like now I've gotten to a point where I'm like kind of comfortable in like my style of playing and like the suckiness. Like I'm not like, I don't consider myself particularly like a great guitar player, but I am like comfortable with my style, and I feel like it's unique. And I might like go back to lessons at some point, like if I want to challenge myself. But yeah, right now I'm not.
Right. Yeah. It suits your particular. Hello. I am curious. At what point did you start getting into doing noise as well? Because you said that you were interested in like playing guitar because of emo and all of that.
Yeah.
There was a transition at some point where you were like, maybe I'm also interested in stuff sort of beyond composed, I guess you could say structured music too, right?
There's like kind of two things that happened. Like when I got to my late 20s, I was feeling like very frustrated with my guitar playing. I felt like I wasn't really making any progress, but like I hadn't really found like my signature sound yet or something like that. It sounds like bad, but I kind of just started like turning everything on and turning the distortion up as loud as possible and just like beating the shit out of my guitar in practice, just being like, "Ugh!" And I was like, wow, that sounds cool. So it kind of was like birthed out of like my own frustrations with my style of guitar playing. Cause I think like for me, like I had a weird road to music. I didn't start playing music until I was a little older than a lot of the other people that I know. So I feel like my path through it has always been kind of shaped by like my limitations or like my experience in taking so long to like start playing. So I think like that was also very much informed by me like not knowing what was going on and like feeling very stuck with my playing, and really just like taking out my frustration on the guitar. So that's kind of how I started that. But then also one of my best friends in Philly, her name's Lauren. She's like the best guitar player I know. And it has nothing to do with like her technical skills or anything, but it's just like it's like, you know, when someone plays guitar and like like you kind of lose like where they start and like it's like they're the same thing as their guitar. It's like they fused with your guitar. I feel like Lauren just like really effortlessly plays in her style that way. She did a pretty like common trick where like, you know, she takes the beer bottle and she like uses it as
slides up and down.
But I would like, it blew my mind when I saw it. I was just like, holy fucking shit. Because I had never seen anything like that before, ever.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, because, you know, I grew up like listening to like My Chemical Romance and all of that stuff. And then I was listening to like heavy metal and like Riot Girl and things. So then seeing I had never seen anything like that before. So that was kind of how I got into noise, because I started playing noise guitar, and just like making as weird of noises as possible with the guitar. And it's funny because like you'll like make noise on your guitar and people think that you're like actually playing it, and they'll be like, wow, that's so cool, but like you're not playing it, you're just hitting things with all the pedals turned on.
The mystification, I think, is
it's very
effective.
I'm like, oh, like literally I just turned everything on and I'm just going like yeah,
it sounds intense. I mean, especially the new ladder tracks, there's some really heavy stuff in there. So
there is some heavy stuff.
It's working for sure. Have you always used guitar in relation to like noise too, or did you branch out beyond? I know you have like some other doodads other than guitar, but that was always like a primary component of the noise as well, or?
At first, yeah. At first, I like didn't know how to perform without a guitar, and it was really scary. I was making noise with the guitar, and it was funny because I was really like beating the shit out of my guitar. So I was doing something where like it's kind of weird, but I was like, people use vibrators in noise a lot. It's like a pretty common practice because they sound really cool and it's like subversive or whatever. But
taboo.
Yeah, it's taboo. Yeah. It's, you know, so I was like I was taking like vibrators and like making, so like, you know, like an EBow. So you can like make an EBow. You can essentially do the same thing with your guitar. If you take a vibrator and you just like put it to the strings, it's like the same thing. It's like the strings will vibrate if you put it close enough and you like turn the intensity up high enough. So I was just doing that essentially for a while, and I was like beating the shit out of my guitar, and I was like hitting it with things, and then I started ladder, and I was like, I need that, like. I can't because I was like very ready to break my guitar. I was like, I'm never going to play music again, so it doesn't matter. Now I don't use guitar in my noise shows. I use computers, which people don't like, but it's like a lot of digital, like a lot of like Ableton. I use a software program called Maximus P, which is a visual programming language for musicians. You can basically do anything you want in there. So I use it to do like granular synthesis. And then I also use like a lot of different like gadgets and contact microphones too. I just make as much noise as possible.
At what point did you get interested in doing the Skillshare stuff and kind of like passing that information that you sort of picked up and having all these different approaches in noise to other people?
Because I didn't start playing music till like kind of later. Growing up, everyone always told me that I was like tone deaf and that I'd never be a musician. Like I kind of like made it my mission for a long time in my 20s to be like, anyone can be a musician if they want to. Like I did it and I sucked at music. So if I can do it, you can too.
Yeah. Well, you have to start somewhere too, I would argue. Like everyone sucks
when they first start playing, right? Yeah. That's been my ethos like this whole time. When I went to grad school for sound art, I was like, I really want to like take this information and give it away for free. So yeah, I love teaching. I was a teacher for a while. I taught like kids how to write songs together in like an after school program in Philly. The Soft Noise Skillshare, which I do, it's like a workshop series for women, trans, non-binary folks, participants and facilitators, like kind of a space like away from cisgendered men, just because like it's not like against them, it's just like carving out a space where we can like learn.
Yeah, I mean it's a male dominated field, I would argue, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's nice to just kind of like have a space away from that. I modeled it after something called the Sound Museum Collective in Philadelphia. I think they might be open to everyone now, but at first it was just open to like, women, trans, non-binary people. They do like sound art workshops, but then also like DIY recording and things like that. So I wanted it to be kind of like a well-rounded experience where people like there's workshops. We have workshops on just like recording on your own in GarageBand. But then we also have like workshops on like building contact mics. We did a workshop on VCV Rack, which is like, are you familiar with VCV Rack?
No.
It's like a free, it's free open source software, and it's like a Eurorack emulator.
Okay,
So yeah, it's really fucking cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's so cool. So yeah, we kind of do all of that. So, but it's really kind of birthed out of like this ethos of like anyone can be a musician if they want to be. It's a very like mystified thing. There's definitely like a barrier between musician and non-musician, and like artist, non-artist, left brain, right brain. And I've really just kind of wanted to destroy that this whole time.
So was that your kind of like primary creative pursuit when you came back to Chicago, or?
So yeah, I lived in Philly for 12 years and then I moved to Chicago. And yeah, my main creative pursuit for the first few years here was sound art. I went to grad school for sound art. So I was like really pursuing a career of doing like gallery installation work, using like code and different things. I was also doing a lot of performance art. I was very much like in the fine art world, and I still do that stuff, and I'm still like in that world, but there's been like less opportunities, and I've just been like focusing on other things recently.
Yeah. Well, and that's because you also started Ladder too, which I guess is kind of what we're working our way toward, which is not your first band. You've been in other bands.
No, I've been in lots of bands.
Yeah. But you seem, I think, very excited about this one, and
it's
your first time back in a lot of years, right? As well.
Yeah, this is my first band. So I'm 35, and this is my first band since I was 29. So it's been some time.
Yeah. It's a long break. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long break. Yeah.
So you felt just kind of unmotivated, I guess, at that point in music?
Officially, I was feeling very disillusioned with being in bands. I was exhausted. Like I felt like I was kind of like really like grinding and cutting my teeth in the Philly DIY scene for a really long time, and it just kind of felt like I was like spinning my wheels. I told myself like I don't have the energy to start another band. Like it's a lot of energy, which it is, right? Like it's so much energy to start a project. It happened literally out of nowhere. Like I met my bandmate completely by accident. So it just like, I was never planning on being in a band again. And then it happened. And then I think like when you find a project that you're really excited about and motivated by, like you'll find like you get the energy.
Yeah, it makes you want to do it, having people around you who are invested similarly to and have that vision, right? That's cool.
Right.
That's cool. Did you want to show us some stuff that you're working? I know you have a cat.
Sure. I love how she's just become a part of it. Yeah. I knew this would happen. Yeah. So it's funny because I'm left-handed, and I got this like this bass. I got this bass 6 from Pete Grossman at Bricktop Recording, the guy who did our album. Because he's like the only other left-handed guitarist I know, so I was able to get this from him, which was really cool. It's funny because I took a saw to the neck in practice one day. That was a bad idea, but it's fine. It works. I was tuning to drop A on my Fender Telecaster, and Pete from Bricktop Recording was like, "Don't do that." He was like, "That's bad." He was like, "Use this guitar." I was like, "I have to get this guitar," and he was like, "Oh well, lucky for you, I'm trying to sell it." So yeah, it's a bass 6. I don't know it's like custom. It's like a parts. What do they call those? Like parts.
Parts caster.
It's like a parts. It's like several different parts.
Yeah.
So it's like not a specific brand.
Yeah, Frankenstein. Sometimes.
It's like a Frankenstein. Yeah, it's like a Frankenstein guitar. There's like 2 songs on the album. The last 2, they're called Raw and then My Body Is My Sickness. So they're in this tuning. It's A, E, A, D, F sharp, B, which I guess is like drop A, right? So it's drop A, but it's a half a step. It's a half a step down. So it would be drop A flat.
Drop A flat standard. Yeah.
Drop A flat standard, yeah. And I think it sounds pretty cool. Like it sounds kind of like pretty as is, like, you know, like like this guitar, I feel like it's like beefy, and I feel like just doing like crazy noise sounds cool.
Was there a particular reason why you wanted to tune so low? You just liked kind of having that extra kind of like grit
yes.
to the sound?
I tend to like I pick tunings from bands that I like.
Okay. So what was the band that inspired you?
It was either Pile or Chat Pile.
Okay.
I'm a big Pile.
Yeah, Pile
I'm a big
band,
Pile
yes,
guy. Yeah, like I'm a huge fan of Pile. It was either Pile or Chat Pile. I can't remember because I'll just look up like the tunings that people play in. It was kind of funny because I didn't realize that my my chromatic tuner was set to half a step down. Oh. So that's why that's the tuning. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't even realize, but it worked because I feel like, yeah, I'm always trying to like experiment with tunings. I feel like, especially like with Screamo and stuff, like a lot of it really is kind of just like in the tunings.
Yeah. Well, it can bring out approaches sometimes that you might not have thought of too, especially if you're less, I think, if you're newer to the guitar in particular, it sort of teaches you different approaches.
Exactly.
To playing, yeah.
And I think like anytime I'm stuck, I'll try a different
something
tuning.
new.
I'll always try a different tuning.
It's funny how that happens, right? Like you kind of, you sort of find the voice that you're most familiar with in each of those different spaces.
I just always want everything to sound like as scary as possible, like as like, you know what I mean, just like I want it to sound like the gates of hell are opening.
Well, low is good for that too. And I guess I think one of the other things that, for me at least, that comes to mind when I think about low tunings is that when you have a really low tuned guitar and you jam on it really hard, the tuning of the string is way out at first because you kind of like bent it so hard.
Because you bent it.
And then it sort of like comes into tuning.
Yeah.
And that sound I think is really cool.
Right.
Sure.
So there's like built-in dissonance, which I like.
Yeah. And that was one thing I wanted to talk about too, is like your approach to dissonance, because I think Ladder has a really cool balance between like melodicism at times, maybe a good harmony, traditional harmony, I guess you could say, and then also like very dissonant, even disharmonic sections. Is there kind of like a process that you go through where you're like, this is going to be, well, I guess is it an intentional writing where you're like, we want to have something really, really just kind of like big here and abrasive, and then you want to dial it back another point?
John and I write all of the songs together in our practice space. We do really like to experiment with just kind of playing like whatever. I think what we'll often do is like when we're writing, we'll just try something. You know, we'll be like, oh, why don't we put like a blast beat here? You know, I'm not super familiar with like keys and stuff, but like I can tell when I've entered a different key. You know, I'm be like, oh, let's play basically a completely different song in this part and a blast beat. You know, we try it and then kind of like marinate on it a little bit, and like I'll kind of like listen back to it a few times, and like some ideas I'm like, oh my God, like that was not a good idea. Like what was I thinking? But then you like really can kind of come across some gems. For me, like I think it's always like not being afraid to fuck up, you know, like not being afraid to like sound dissonant, like because that's really I think how you're gonna grow as a songwriter. And like especially if you want to be writing like heavy music, don't be afraid to just like try shit.
Well, there's another I think key in there too, and then in that you're just always pushing beyond kind of what you tried previously. Too,
Yeah.
Right. Like, and throwing a lot of stuff at the wall. I think that's also really critical.
We throw a lot of shit at the wall. And, and we've made changes like in the studio. Like that song Raw, like we had a whole other section to that song that we just like cut out. We were like, no. It doesn't work. In the beginning of that song, we had like this like weird dad jam. Because we were like, why don't we have like a weird like Grateful Dead part now?
Why not? Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
It didn't work. It didn't make the cut. But it's like, we're like, oh, well, why don't we just try? Right. I don't like the Grateful Dead. And I don't like jam rock. So I was like, that sounds so bad. Like, we can't do that. But I think, it's a testament to like, you try it. And if it sounds like shit, it's not a reflection on you as a musician, right? It's not a reflection on you as an artist. It's just an idea that didn't work.
And you'll have another idea afterwards.
Yeah. I remember someone telling me, they said like the best songwriter that they knew wrote a song every single day for like years. And that's crazy. I would never write a song every single day for years. But he was like, yeah, like most of his songs were shitty. But like some of them were really good.
Because he wrote a lot of songs.
Because he wrote a lot of songs, right? So I think, not saying that you have to write a lot of songs, but it's like not all of your ideas are going to be the best ones.
Yeah. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, as they say.
That's exactly how I feel. We see ourselves very as like adjacent to a lot of different genres, but like not really in a specific genre. But I think a lot of projects are like that. You know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, genre descriptors are for the audience primarily to
right
sort of classify you after the fact.
Right, but like bands never know what they sound like.
Was there a particular musical influence that you had in mind when you started Ladder, or was it just kind of like, let's just see what happens?
Yeah. So for Ladder, I was like, I want to start a screamo band, but it's not a screamo band. We do have influences. We don't like stick to them, but there's definitely like some things that I was thinking of going in. Like the Blood Brothers are one of my really like biggest inspirations for like songwriting.
Yeah, talk about like very unique guitar playing. I've talked about this before
unique.
on this channel, but yeah, like incredibly unique guitar playing.
Yeah, just like one of the most unique bands. Like no one sounds like them. Do you know anyone who sounds like them? Or except maybe people who are trying to sound like them?
I mean, there's bands I could point to that I think are in similar territory, but I wouldn't say that they're like the same. Like The Locust comes to mind. It's
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so Botch was a big one. Let me look at our inspo playlist. Mets, Chat Pile.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good series of influences, though. I mean,
yeah,
I can see a lot of that. I think in the way that you approach it, for sure. Especially the Chat Pile, I think in the noisier sections really comes through. It's very like spacey but also heavy sounding.
Yeah, I love Chat Pile. I mean, they're like obviously a new influence for me, but
well, they're a new band.
Yeah. I want to show my jar.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the jar. We almost finished this without talking about the jar.
So there's this like. So I, with noise and all this stuff, there's this guy on Reverb. It's like Rucci, Rucci or something like that. I could be pronouncing it wrong. He's really cool. He's like a maker. He makes very affordable, like noise devices. This is a photoresistor jar. So it's got 3 oscillators. And each one is connected by a different photoresistor. So you can really kind of have some, and they're controlled by the amount of light that the photoresistors receive. But you can kind of get some cool stuff going on because like the direction that the light is hitting these photoresistors can change what it sounds like, which is cool. So I got this for like $45, I think. I just want to plug him. It's like Rucci Electronics. Very affordable like noise devices. So I use this in the Ladder sets like a lot, and I use it in all of my noise sets too. I use it in basically everything I do. Dry, it sounds kind of cool. I mean, but etc. But can kind of get funky with it, with a lot of different pedals and stuff. And if you like plug it into a DAW, you can have even more endless possibilities.
Very cool. Yeah, it's an amazing little toy.
I love this jar. It's just like they have a lot of cool stuff that you can just get like really cheap, you know? And I'm like big on affordability, and I feel like he does a really good job at like making quality stuff that's like accessible. Should I plug like my band's socials?
You can say whatever you want. We're just wrapping up.
You should follow my band. It's like, I hate to be like that person, but like, you can follow my band if you want. It's Ladder, LATTER.BAND, band, on Instagram. And you can buy our album on Bandcamp.
It was great talking with you. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course.